Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Three NBA podcast. H. Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis. We're back after a glorious little holiday week. I would say it started on Monday. But we're just going to get right into it with the Celtics road trip. Coming out way better than we probably expected. Way better than we actually expected. Last week, we predicted that they'd lose to at least one of the two teams in LA, and they said, no, we're going to take both those wins. But let's just work backwards. Let's start with the Christmas Day game, the biggest game for anyone that really loves the NBA, but also for the players themselves. What were your takeaways from that win against the Lakers?
I'm going to let Gary go first because Gary was in the building.
The ground.
G-Money was in the building, so.
Well, an impressive win for the Celtics. They basically, they took control, jumped out 12-0. Crowd was real quiet. The Lakers kind of rallied to come back and took a 1-point lead in the early second half, but the Celtics just manhandled them. Their strategy was pretty obvious. Let Anthony Davis go nuts, but nobody else get theirs, even LeBron James. And I think what Celtics had an advantage is LeBron was tired. Like, in as much as he is still one of the greatest players on the earth, still top 2 to 3 player in the league, he had scored 40 points 2 nights before, leading them to the win over Oklahoma City, he called it a must win. So he just didn't have a lot to tank, especially after his knee bumped into Jalen's back in a really bizarre injury. He couldn't finish. He just wasn't the same. And the problem with the Lakers is that supporting cast, none of them, besides our friend Taurean Prince,
could actually support.
Really showed up, right? They really didn't really show up. They didn't give a lot of support. They faded in the end, and the Celtics took control, made some plays, great defensive plays. Derek White, Drew Holiday, of course, Porzingis. So an impressive win, even though they won and they didn't shoot the three well. 31%. I think they were 13 for 42, something to that effect. So
it's that 42 number again. We keep hearing that 42 number. Anyway, keep going.
The same number they shot against Sacramento when they scored 144 points. So it shows they don't need to hit the three to be successful. If they attack the two and get to the free throw line. Tatum didn't have a great game, but had 13 free throws. Jalen had his moments early. But this just shows you the depth. When you're talking about White, Holiday, Porzingis, even guys like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, I think scored 10 points. I want to say had his couple of moments. I remember the Clipper game where he scored 10 straight points. I think the Clipper game, but they had support and they were able to basically take control and beat a team that they should beat.
Yeah, I think we're just starting to see with them more and more is that the ability for them to impact winning is not just a Jalen Jason thing. It's not just a Jalen Jason Kristaps thing. It's like as we get deeper into the season, they're extending that window of ballers who are making a difference. And that's what championship teams do. You don't depend on the same 3 or 4 guys every night to win. Sometimes the pecking order the deck gets reshuffled. And you have guys who maybe were the 4th or 5th option one night are now that dude. I thought Porzingis was great in that game against the Lakers. I thought he really gave the Lakers problems and gave the Celtics a dimension that when you start looking at the types of teams you're going to see later on, not just in the season, but in the playoffs, as you get closer and closer towards winning a championship, you're going to need him to be the best player on the floor some nights. And that was something that I thought when he came to Boston, he was very comfortable in being that number 3 guy and just let Jason and Jason do their thing. But it seems the more we see him play, the more he's recognizing and his teammates are recognizing. Some nights he's got to be that guy that was the number 1 option in New York. Some nights he has to be that guy that teams are trying to figure out what the hell are we going to do with this dude because he's killing us right now. The Lakers was a great example of that. LeBron being tired. Listen, I don't not giving LeBron no outs. That injury with him and Jalen was weird because Jalen got kneed in the back. LeBron knee hit, Jalen, and Jalen seemed like the one initially that was dealing with a bigger issue in terms of getting back and playing. LeBron is still going to be LeBron. He's at that point now where he can tear ligaments and all that in his knee and still go get you 25, 7, and 7. He's that dude. I do think that there was a little bit of mental fatigue, I think, more than physical with LeBron because, as Gary pointed out, they put so much stock in that OKC game that I think that a lot of them were just mentally tapped out afterwards because they needed to get off the snide. And the Celtics were, to me, the worst case scenario for the Lakers, a team that was better than you, a team that was rested, and a team that is playing on a different kind of level mentally every single night they step out on the floor. And it led to a game that, again, the Celtics won by 11, but for those of us who watched the game really never really felt that close of a game. If the Celtics seemed to have kind of like a double-digit length of a lead pretty much the entire night, it was just a matter of how big would that double-digit lead be at the end of the day. But for me, the big takeaway was Porzingis and just how he's starting to figure out when he has to be that number one option, that go-to guy for this team, and when he needs to settle into the more natural role as the second or third or possibly fourth option when needed.
That's the thing I love the most about the Christmas Day game, too, though, is that's obviously a chance for players to show out and do their best that they can all season because they know that there are national eyes on them. But I think it's very telling. We watch basketball on a daily basis because, quite frankly, we have to. That's part of our jobs. But the casual NBA fan, they don't have the time to watch every single. I mean, of course, they're loyal fans, but some people just genuinely don't have time to watch it. And I was home with family watching that game. And it's interesting when you hear people watching maybe the Celtics for the first time this season, and they're like, oh, Porzingis looks the way he did in New York, where we've seen the sparks that he's brought to this team all year already. But for the casual fan, the one that doesn't have as much time, they're getting to see, oh, this team is actually good. And they're getting a sense of, oh, the Celtics team could actually be a legitimate threat, which is another perspective that I was able to pick up this Christmas, which is obviously a common theme for fans in general. But looking overall to that West Coast trip, they come out only one loss. That was, of course, to the Warriors. What would you two say was your biggest takeaway from the way they were able to perform on the road during the holiday season at that?
You know, I expected them to come out with 3 out of the 4 wins. I did not think it would be that. I thought they'd drop one of the LA games and they would beat Golden State. But after the Golden State, you go back and you look at how just bad they played in that game. The 41, I think that was the one where they missed like 41 threes. And yet there they were in overtime. Who the hell misses that many threes and plays a game that goes into overtime on the road? To me, that was more telling about how good they are than anything else. Able to be in a situation, and they had a chance to win it at the very end of regulation. If we're not going to get into Joe Mazzulla's decision to call a timeout, not call a timeout, another story, another day, another podcast. But the bottom line is that West Coast trip, I think, really reinforced their position and status as the team everyone is trying to catch because they were able to beat you in a lot of different ways. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were not necessarily the best player every single one of those games. And their bench, there were some games where the bench looked really good, other games it didn't look so hot. Joe Mazzulla, I thought he had his moments where I thought he made some really good, critical, smart decisions. To me, one of the most important decisions, I don't know if we'll get into it today, but the decision to play Queta more now than he has in the past, they're going to have to make a commitment to that dude because he belongs on their regular roster. When you look at what he's able to do in the minute, the limited minutes that he's out there on the floor, and it seems, and I could be wrong, but it seems he's getting better the more he plays. You're actually seeing progress. Bottom line is this was a road trip where they won. They won most of the games that they should have won. They showed growth for some of those young guys who didn't necessarily play a lot. And their core guys, I didn't feel had to carry the load for longer periods. Like you didn't see any 45, 46-minute nights for Tatum and Brown for them to get a win. Those guys play their usual minutes. And again, to me, more than anything, they just reinforce why they're the best team in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't really need vintage Tatum or vintage Brown on the trip. I mean, they won 3 out of the 4, and they won the game that Jason didn't play in by 25 points and really routed a good Sacramento team. I mean, on the trip, Jason was against the Warriors, with the sprained ankle. 5 for 17. He scored 15 points. They lost that game. He did not play against the Kings. And in LA, he was a combined 15 for 31, 6 for 16 from three. He had 30 against the Clips, 25. He was solid, good, what we expect Tatum, but nothing that was like, oh my goodness, Tatum went for 45. Tatum carried him to the win. Tatum scored 17 in a row at one stretch. And they did not need that. And that's the shows, like Sherrod said, a testament to their depth, but they don't always need that. Look at Jalen's numbers on the 4-game trip. Very solid. 28 against the Warriors, 28 against the Kings. And then in LA, he combined for 43 points. He was 1 for 5 from three and 7 for 17 against the Lakers. 19 points, but they won easily the last 3 games of the trip. So when you don't need vintage Jalen, you don't need vintage Jason, you don't need that all-star performance, then that just shows your depth. And it was an encouraging trip after what I would think was a discouraging start, losing to the Warriors, blowing a 17-point lead. And essentially, and we talked about it, just not making the 1 or 2 finishing type of plays to put them away. And now we all know Golden State's playing better. They got Steph, they had Clay. We all know. So, they got all the excuses to say, we lost to a quality team, and the Warriors will still bring it every now and then. But to finish the trip, blowing out the Clippers by 37 points in LA, I don't care if Kawhi didn't play or not, with still Paul George, Norman Powell, James Harden, blowing them out of the water, and then not getting the vintage games from Jason and Jalen just says a lot about their depth. And that Drew Holiday is really starting to blend in, starting to score more. Derek White has been all-star caliber. And then the presence of Porzingis for him, he was great in the Sacramento game and came back and was great against the Lakers. This team is rolling on all cylinders. And they still, to me, haven't played a prolonged stretch of really dominant basketball yet. And yet, they're 23-6. Their schedule gets a lot easier now. Detroit, Sherrod's
Don't talk about that. I'm excited to talk about that.
Sherrod's buddies up in Detroit. How are they doing, Sherrod? How is Pistons
Don't do that. Don't even get into it. Don't.
Why he gonna go there, man? Why he gonna go there?
Why?
Man,
How are they doing?
Toronto, that's another story.
San Antonio. I think they got a tough one against Oklahoma City. After the first of the year, but the schedule gets a little bit easier. So the Celtics could put away some wins, create some distance, make it a little bit easier on themselves in April. But so far, an impressive trip, especially after the Golden State loss.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Sherrod, you mentioned QUETA, and I do think we should quickly touch upon him because Gary's been asking for the last few weeks, why hasn't QUETA been getting any minutes? So I just quickly did some hood research myself. And when we say hood research, it's legitimate numbers, by the way. But obviously, just for a disclaimer.
When you got to put out the disclaimer that this isn't really hood research. This is
not making up
hood
stuff.
with an asterisk research.
Right. It's just like last minute pull stuff together. So in LA versus the Clippers, he played 23 minutes, had 14 points, 12 rebounds, 21 minutes against Golden State. Obviously, that was a loss, but he had 10 points, 10 rebounds as well. He played in every game on the road the last few games. But to your point, Sherrod, he has grown exponentially in the time that we've seen him on the floor. So I'll start with you, Gary, because I know you've been an advocate for him getting more minutes. What would you think should be the takeaway from Missoula after this road trip for QUETA?
I think Missoula started to change. Like, Luke was active. Suddenly, Luke got healthy after QUETA got 14 and 12 against the Clippers. QUETA played, I think, he had a short stint. He didn't have the big splash against the Lakers that he had against the Clippers. But it shows you that he started to gain the confidence and become that true backup center when they need some rugged minutes. They need a rebound. They need a block shot. They need a putback. So I think the proof's in the pudding, folks. We all know, like, I think, and I'm not going to down Kornet, okay? I think what Kornet does is Kornet does a lot of the little things they like well. He screens well, pick and roll defense, things that are not in the scorebook. Like, you're not going to Kornet's not going to lead the league with nice screens to free up Jason. You're not going to see that. I think they like the little things that Kornet brings to the table. But Kornet doesn't rebound as well as Queta, and he's not that fierce defender, rim protector as Queta is. And yes, Queta's going to get some goaltends. He's had some goaltends. I think he probably lead the team in goaltends in his short stint because he's trying to swat everything away. And I think that dissuades people from attacking the rim. But I also think that Joe understands, okay, this guy is hungry, and I say so you got to start playing him some real quality minutes and see what he can do. 14-12 against the Clippers. He was battling in the paint against Zubac. He gave them a legitimate threat at the rim, and they haven't had that. So to me, when Kristaps is not in the game, or Horford's playing a perimeter player, you use Queta to get those key rebounds, an offensive putback, and you can use him as an offensive threat. That's the one thing, as much as we all like Luke doesn't pose any offensive threat. He gets the ball around the basket. The first thing he does is he hesitates. He looks to pass. He is not going to go up and just ram it on somebody. If he has the space and he feels comfortable, but he is not that guy like, oh, I got this, 3 feet, boom. Even though it might get blocked, or I'm gonna draw a foul, or you're gonna get dunked on. So to me, I tend to think that Queta just is the more aggressive player, the more productive player. You just got to look at the numbers. And I've been calling for him ever since I saw him in preseason. I was like, okay, this kid's got a little chip on his shoulder. 2 years in the Kings kind of system, playing mostly with the Stockton, their G League team in Stockton. Nice career at Utah State. And the guy who's hungry. And Luka, we all love Luka. I think Luka's a nice guy. I think he does exactly what they ask him to do. But you talking about like the eye test, we all know Queta wins that eye test. So I tend to think that Joe is starting to change his mind about, okay, who am I going to give these minutes? And obviously now what we're looking at is when Queta being on a two-way contract, one, he's not eligible for the playoffs. I think that would be a detriment to the Celtics if he's on a playoff roster. Two, he can only play or be active. Even if he suits up and doesn't play, he's active. He can only be active for 50 games. The last time, I think before the road trip, I think he's up to 14 or 15 games now. So you got to ration him now because there's still 50-something games left, right? Tomorrow is game 30. So we got 52 games left, 53 games left. He can only play in 35, 36, 34, 35 left for him to play. So you got to ration him. If not, sign him to a standard NBA deal. And folks, remember, Kornet's on a non-guaranteed deal that will be guaranteed by January 10th, him and Lamar Stevens. So the Celtics have a decision to make. Do you want to keep Kornet for the season on a guaranteed deal? Now, you could still keep him, guarantee his contract and still release him. You could still do that and pay him, right? Or you can waive Kornet and go with Queta, or you can just keep everybody. So they got some decisions to make over the next, couple of weeks.
I got a feeling that my boy Lamar Stevens might be job hunting in the middle of January. Just because from a simple, both I think the financial aspect of it, which isn't huge, but with them being a taxpayer, that it does become a bigger factor. And also it's probably the most seamless way they can bring Queta in on a guaranteed deal, because I do believe that they're going to do that. This is a guy, to me, there's no reason in the world why you wouldn't have him on your roster come playoff time. He is clearly your second best big man right now. And the thing that Gary touched on that I want to dig a little bit deeper into is the biggest difference between him and Kornet is that Queta plays with a certain level of confidence, consistency, and just courage out there. He's not trying. He looks like he belongs out there, that he understands I have a job to do, and that is to help this team. And I can't just do that by just being a screenshot. I mean, he'll put the ball on the floor and look to attack off the dribble on the block. That is something that Luke has been here for how long? I don't know if Luke has ever done that, at least not in a meaningful game. QUETA understands what he can do, who he is. And again, he's raw. He has flashes of young Rob Williams. Remember when Time Lord was trying to block everything that went up at the rim? QUETA's kind of like that. But the difference is QUETA actually has an offensive game. He actually can get the ball with an elbow and make moves and finish at the rim. He actually is willing to go at guys. And there were in that Lakers game, there were moments where LeBron had to hit the pause button before he went and attacked because QUETA was out there. Those are the hidden. We talk about Luke and some of the things that he does that don't get attention and he doesn't get credit for. Same thing with QUETA. When a great player is looking to attack the rim and they see this 7-foot dude who they know is looking to pin everything on the glass, because, we like to pin it on the glass, they decide to pull it out and run their offense, and they don't attack. Having that moment of hesitancy in the minds of really good players is exactly what QUETA does when he's on the floor, and there's value in that. And so, to me, QUETA has done all that you could possibly do, given his situation, given his circumstance, to prove his value beyond just being a two-way contract player. I would be shocked if they don't find a way to get him on a traditional contract to make him eligible for the playoffs. Because unless you're bringing in making a deal for like an Andre Drummond or someone like that, I don't know why you wouldn't have a guy like QUETA as your backup center, or at least, you're one of your two options as a backup center. Because I do think Luke has value, and I do think that the Celtics, more likely than not, will find a way to keep him. Lamar Stevens, as much as I love Lamar, I just don't think this is a good fit for him. I think it's more not so much about his ability and talent. I just don't think what he can do and what he's capable of doing, they understand, recognize, and appreciate that value to this team. And so if that's the case, let him go and find another team that's going to value what he can do. Because I do think he is an NBA player. I just don't think it's going to happen in Boston.
Yeah, I think I like Lamar, and I like what he's done. I just don't understand why they don't play him more. And I think he can fill a role. And I think maybe the emergence of QUETA has made him kind of expendable in terms of kind of that backup big, because Lamar's kind of a 4 or 5. He's not like really a 3. I was talking to some folks in Sacramento about QUETA, and they were like, they saw him on the court, and he enters the game in Sacramento, gets a nice little round of applause, and it was like, okay, like he's getting love and that type of thing, and they were like, how's he doing? Like, wow, he never got into the game this early. And, I said, they love him. He's raw. They said, and I said, like, he's got to work on his hands. They're like, yeah, he's got to work on his finishing. They were like, yeah, that was a tag on him, in Sacramento, that's the things you need to work on. But if you really look at it, it's something I wrote. They dumped him, the Kings, to basically sign JaVale McGee. And if we look at the Sacramento game, JaVale McGee entered in garbage time. He's playing 8 minutes a game. Like, you don't think that they wish they would have kept QUETA?
I'm surprised JaVale's still playing, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy. They literally dumped QUETA, 24-year-old QUETA, to sign 34, 35-year-old JaVale McGee. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't worked for the Kings because JaVale is not in their rotation. So it's just interesting to see how those things go. And I'm sure that there's definitely regret probably letting him go. And the Celtics, as Brad Stevens said, we have to find players when you don't have first-round picks and they've traded them all. We have to find players, what Brad told me, we have to find players, developmental guys, Delano Banton, QUETA, guys who, even O'Shea Brissett, guys who now can value out at a first-round pick, but need some work, need some seasoning, and we can put them in our system like a Miami Heat does with a lot of their guys, right? We look at Miami Heat, and where the hell did Gabe Vincent come from? Where did Duncan Robinson come from? Where did Haywood Highsmith come from? Jamal King, some of these guys, Orlando Robinson, guys that were making plays, and they developed. And that's what the Celtics have decided to do when you give away your first-round picks. And I think QUETA is a perfect example of one man's trash, another man's treasure, where the Kings was like, no, we need JaVale McGee. And you had your man was right there sitting there looking at you and you let them go and the Celtics picked them up. And they did the same thing. And a guy we don't know a lot about yet, Drew Peterson, a kid from USC, the Celtics signed him, they got rid of Nathan Knight. I don't think he was a really good fit. Nathan's kind of a 4-5, not really a 5. It just didn't work. I know, Sherrod, your high school chum, Nottingham, some bougie high school.
Ham, fool. What you have for Christmas dinner? Ham. Nottingham, fool.
Notting Hill High School.
Stop hate.
The real tough, rough and tough school, Nottingham. The real gangsters go
in the trenches.
Anyway.
Why he going into my school like that?
Eastside High. It was Eastside High in Syracuse. Anyway, but they got rid of him. They signed Drew Peterson, another guy, 6'8", 6'9", can shoot. Another stretch guy that probably will make contributions more next year. And that's with QUETA. I think they thought maybe next year he'll make contributions, but they put him in the game and the guy making plays. 14 and 12 against a legit center like Zubac. Zubac not sliced, mincemeat here. Zubac legit NBA center. And that dude was putting up the numbers in not a whole lot of minutes. Not even like he played 40 minutes. So I think the Celtics got to really, like you said, Sherrod, really think about what they want to do with their roster. I think they'll find a way to keep Kornet. I think they like Kornet. They like what he does, what he brings, the defensive, because as Joe has mentioned, the pick and roll defense, some of the idiosyncrasies that bigs need to know, QUETA still needs to work at. And I totally understand that. But the eye test, the dog, a dude, no, that's my ball, fool. No, QUETA got that all over Kornet. QUETA, you don't want to be in that dude. You want that dude with you in a dark alley. You want that dude snatching a rebound in somebody's hands. You want somebody to go to the paint and be like, okay, this dude is going to block my shot into the second row. Let me back up a little bit. Like, he's foul prone. That's another thing that we have to, you have to understand. But I think he's made productive plays, had productive minutes, and it's time to reward my man.
This is why you listen to the Big Three NBA podcast, because who would have thought that you get this much QUETA talk on an episode? We have diversity here. We make sure everyone.
Notting Hill High School reference.
Nottingham High, Nottingham, Notting Turkey, all of them.
Yeah, Notting stuffing.
I'm a knot upside your head. You keep talking about school like that. Could have nodding upside your head.
I can't. So we're going to quickly play a game of fill in the lane. We talked about, obviously, this West Coast trip. Let's put a bow on it. Obviously, they're back at home playing the Pistons. We're going to get into that in just a second. But fill in the lane. Blank is how you would describe Boston's West Coast trip.
I would just say, meh, is how I describe it. They did what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They did. They handled their business. They were the best team at the beginning of that trip. And now that we're through that vortex, lo and behold, they're still the best team. To me, they did exactly what you're supposed to do. And again, it wasn't the sexiest trip. It wasn't just, the nastiest trip. It was just a solid business-like approach. They lost the game where they played about as bad as they played in the game all year. And that game went to overtime. After that, they pretty much had their way with everyone that was on the schedule, and they didn't always have their full complement of players. Tatum missed the game, and they won. I think that was the largest margin of victory they had on the West Coast trip in the game that they played without Tatum. Shout out to De'Aaron Fox on his birthday, catching that big fat L on his birthday. I hate that for the young fella. I hate that. Turned 26 years old and caught that big. Anyway, another story, another day. Bottom line is, it is what it is. Bottom line is they did exactly what great teams do, and that is handle your business. Don't leave any doubt as to who is that team, who is them, and it's the Celtics. So, man, it's all right. What you got, Gary?
I'm going to say successful. I mean, you obviously you like to go 4-0 and walk away with undefeated trip, but that's hard. Any East Coast team that goes west knows it's treacherous out there in the West, especially when you're playing both LA teams. you're playing Golden State, and you're playing a sneaky Sacramento on a back-to-back. The most impressive win of the season to me was that Sacramento win. No Jason. And then remember, they fell behind 23-11. They could have got, or 23-something, 23-11. They could have gotten blown out the gym. I was sitting there like, okay, they really about to get blown out the gym up in here. Like, this does not look like they're ready to play. And they came back. So I thought it was the most impressive win of the season. Then to come back, beat the brakes off the Clippers, and then just the margin of victory, 23, 24 points average margin of victory. Then beat the Lakers by 11, just put it away. No excitement in the last 4 minutes. They just took LeBron out the game. The Lakers said, okay, you got us. There wasn't any dramatics that needed to occur because probably in the last couple of years, that game becomes tight because the Celtics don't score for 4 minutes, right? They're up 12 and suddenly AD and LeBron in back-to-back threes and somebody has a dunk and D'Angelo Russell steps up for a three and suddenly it's a 1-point game and the Celtics are in a dogfight. That did not happen. They took care of business. They made plays early in the fourth quarter and made it easy on themselves. God got a chance to just relax. We got this. Bask in the glory of a Christmas Day win in LA. Deuce Tatum running out there telling everybody Happy Christmas.
I enjoyed that part, man. I enjoyed that. I'm glad they're giving Deuce some lines when you get on the mic now.
Yeah, it was good.
He's getting speaking parts now.
He's getting some speaking roles. That's you're stepping up.
Wait, did y'all see his commercial though? Oh my goodness. All right, I'll send it to y'all after. He did a commercial. I don't know if it was a legitimate commercial, but it was for Tatum's new Jordans. And Deuce is an actor. Like, give him an award immediately because he nailed all his lines. If y'all don't know what it is, just go on Twitter, X, search Deuce Tatum Christmas. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Very well done performance by Deuce. Someone texted to me on Christmas morning, which made it even sweeter.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an actor. All right, moving on. Let's talk about these Pistons breaking all the records for all the wrong reasons. The worst NBA record in the National Basketball Association to date. This is a game I'm actually excited about. What are we thinking about Celtics Pistons? I don't think that the Celtics would want to lose. But 27 straight losses for the Pistons. They have I don't even know if they have a chip on their shoulders. I can't even say they have a chip on their shoulders, to be honest.
Look,
are we even expecting anything? But this could be that one where it's like, you know what? Let's care today. But who knows? I want to hear what y'all think.
I'm
27 straight losses.
I am so tortured by this game coming up because I never really want teams to win or lose. I just want them to play well. This is one of those games where I really want the Pistons to do something more than just show up and get that ass spanked because they've done it for 27 games. And it's like it's that bad song that you can't get out your head, but every time you turn around, somebody playing that bad song. That's the Detroit Pistons now. They are a bad team, and no matter how much you want to not think about them being a bad team, you can't because they are on a historic level now. And, they've already lost more consecutive games in a single season than any team in NBA history. They lose to Boston. They will have they will either tie or break. They'll tie the Sixers for the most consecutive losses in general. And the Sixers did it over the course of 2 seasons. So I wanted to put up a good fight, but I just don't see how they're going to win this game because the Celtics have given you absolutely no clue or hint that they would take them lightly. Now, if this were the Celtics of last year,
oh yeah,
I think the Pistons might have a shot. I think the Pistons might. I would even go so far as to say the Pistons might even have blown that team out. Real talk. But this year, I just don't see it happening. I mean, if the Pistons could be within striking distance with 6-7 minutes to go, I'd be shocked because I think the Celtics more likely than not they're going to have a 20, 30-point lead at some point the first 3 quarters and come fourth quarter, they're probably looking at a 20-point lead with about 5-6 minutes to go. And at that point, it's just you're just running out the clock. The Pistons, it seems a pretty safe bet that they will not win this game and that the Celtics will cover whatever the line may be for this game. And then that losing streak, Monty, they'll have a chance to, move on to the next city and become the sole owner of the worst losing streak in NBA history. So I feel bad for them, but man, I feel bad for them.
It's bad.
Gary's on no mercy. Gary's just like, bring them on. They suck us. We gonna smash them. Boston gonna smash them.
No, I don't feel that way. I feel sad for the city of Detroit. Is a great basketball city. They deserve winning basketball, and they tried to rebuild mightily over the last few years, putting together all these lottery picks, and it was supposed to come together. Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes, Jalen Duran, Jalen Ivey, Isaiah Stewart. I mean, you just naming guys. Now, All-Star Thompson.
Coaching, Monty Williams. I mean, some people are divided on.
They even traded for James Wiseman and Marvin back. Like, they got so many top 10 and top 15 picks in their team. It's absurd. And for them to just not be competitive or just, it's just sad. And there's something going on in Detroit. I don't know what it is. It's a culture thing. There's no way this team should lose. You're young and you're trying, but there's no way this team should be losing 27 games in a row. It's ridiculous.
The fans just want some wings. They're never going to get Wingstop.
Yeah, it's just something. There's something. They want something. And Detroit, now the Lions are doing good, so I think maybe the market, the city is excited about that and taking the pressure off the Pistons, but something's got to give in Detroit because it's been 10, 12 years now since, Sherrod's boys, Chauncey and Rip and all those guys left. They haven't been all that competitive. It was supposed to be Andre Drummond, and they signed.
They've been rebuilding since.
Yeah, they signed Josh Smith, and they were, Stan Van Gundy was supposed to bring him back, and then, our friend, good guy, Dwayne Casey, that ain't worked. Now they give Monty Williams $78 million, and they lost 27 games in a row. The Celtics, though, cannot take this game lightly. The injury report's out. Jason and Jalen are both questionable. Jalen with that bruised back. Jason with the left ankle management because it's a back-to-back. So they got to decide, okay, well, let's punch first and take them out early. Don't let Cade. Cade had 41 in their last. Cade's a good player.
Cade is balling. He is balling.
Good player. And you don't want Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench hitting 5 threes they got players who can have a breakout game and make it competitive and close. You do not want that. You don't want to be the team that lost to them. And this could be one of the biggest point spreads maybe in league history. And if Jason and Jalen both play, it could be, right? This could be 20-point spread, 21 points. I mean, that's a college football point spread or college basketball. You usually don't get anything more than maybe 15 or 16 at the most in NBA, but this is the best team in the league against the team, by far the worst team in the league. So it'll be interesting, but the Celtics cannot sleep on this team. They got some rest, no practice on Wednesday, so they haven't played since Christmas, but don't rest in your laurels and go in there and go, we got this. Punch first, knock them out, take them out by third quarter, and then you're good.
Well, that leaves me with another fill in the lane. Then if Detroit somehow managed just to pull off an upset against Boston, blank has to happen.
Oh, that's easy. Cade has to have the best game he's ever had in life. Tatum has to not play. Jalen has to not play. Porzingis has to be questionable or limited. There's so many things that would have to go.
Has to burn down.
Yeah. There's so many things that you ain't right. See, that's that BC Eagle coming out of her. She ain't right. There are so many things that have to go Detroit's way for them to have a shot at this, let alone win it. And I just don't see that happening. But if it were to happen, it would definitely be a night where Tatum and Brown don't play. Drew Holiday looks like the Drew Holiday we saw a few weeks ago where he's going 3 for 7, missing layups. Derek White will have a 5-turnover game, which we've only seen that happen once. And it would have to happen again. It would be one of, and even then, the game probably going to go to overtime if all those things happen. So it can happen, but I just don't see realistically how Detroit can win that game. But it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, the Pistons would have to play well and also finish the game. I think if you look at the last few games, the 2 games against Brooklyn, the game against Utah, they competed, they're still playing hard for money. They're not low. There's a couple of games they've lost. Like, oh man, they down 30. But mostly they've played okay until that last 6 minutes, and then they just give it up, and then the team pulls away and they lose. So they would have to play 48 full minutes. The Celtics would just have to be a step slow. And even if, Jalen and Jason don't play, like you said, Gerard, they still got enough guys to win that game. Derek, Drew, guys, O'Shea Brissett can get some minutes. Peyton Pritchard could get him up. But I think Detroit would just have to play a very good game. And then also the key player to me is Jalen Duran. If he controls that paint, gets them 12, 15, 18 rebounds, 4 or 5 blocks, and makes it to where it's like, don't come in here, because he just has one of those nights, that could make things hard for the Celtics. I mean, and I'm not saying it would happen or they're going to lose, but this is a game I think they need to be careful of. Without question,
yeah, seriously,
they're going to be desperate. Detroit's going to try to, Detroit's going to be desperate. Like, they don't want, their name is attached to this. They're going to be playing their butts off to try to get this. Now, obviously, but we all know if you hit them a couple of times first, their confidence is going to go to the floor, and they're not going to be able to. They're not going to fight. How much fight do they have left? Or are they going to point at a game and say, okay, let's look at Washington. Maybe we can beat them. And maybe they're looking down the schedule and thinking, okay, we really don't have a chance. But because I think they have Toronto on Saturday, and I think that's a second game of a back-to-back for Toronto. So it is possible that they might be looking forward to that game. Maybe it's the Raptors. Who knows?
Who knows indeed. All right, let's quickly go around the NBA. There are a few stories that piqued our interest in our rundown, but you guys can pick which one maybe stands out to you the most. Luka, he dropped 50 on Christmas. Would you say he's your MVP league front runner right now at this point in the season? We also have Miami Heat. They're healthy, surging. How big of a threat do you think they're in the East? But related to the Miami Heat was Udonis Haslem's comments. I don't know if you two were able to see that, about how Bill Russell, basically not disrespecting, I think, Bill Russell and his legacy, and not acknowledging the fact that the 23 is also retired. That's a whole other story in itself. John Morant, Marcus Smart, they're back. They're finally together. They look really good. But then also KD reportedly is frustrated with what's happening in Phoenix. And how would you describe their big three still being together, potentially during the playoffs, if it even got to that point? There's a lot. There's a lot going on. I don't even know which one you want to react.
There's a lot. I'm not going to get into all of them.
You don't have to get into all of them, but I have to at least acknowledge them.
Yeah. No, I will say this. Miami Heat surging, yes, that is something that if you're the Celtics, you absolutely have to be mindful of, because they are starting to get their core guys healthy and they're balling out. Udonis Haslam, F Bill Russell comments and all that is just unnecessary. And as Jaylen Brown pointed out on social media, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you didn't have that same energy when MJ's number went up there. But you're going to come after the social justice icon that Bill Russell is. Okay, got you. So I am looking very forward to a Boston-Miami playoff series, because now I've been trying to figure out what kind of extra juice could the Celtics potentially have, other than the fact that Miami has basically handed them some really bad playoff losses. This might be that little extra something. You better believe that if they play each other in the playoffs, this is going to be on Jaylen Brown's mind. And at some point, when Udonis on that sideline, Jaylen is going to jam with somebody, and Jaylen is going to look over that bench, and he's going to be looking for Udonis, and he was going to say something. And Udonis, being Udonis, is going to reply back or clap back, and boom, tech on Udonis on the bench. So that is. So
Udonis won't be on the floor, to clarify.
No, he'll be on the bench. He'll be on the bench, and he'll be doing what Udonis do, waving a red and white flag, not playing. And the Marcus Smart, this is the way they're playing early on is what I thought would be the case when they got together. I thought they'd be really good as a tandem. Memphis was one of those teams I thought could make a potential run out west, but obviously they've gotten to such a horrible start. But there's plenty of time where they can get in position to make the playoffs and cause some havoc and some chaos in the Western Conference. So not surprised that those guys are playing as well together. But the other stuff on the rundown, I'll leave all that to Gary, or he can jump in on his other stuff. I don't care about league MVP at this point. Luka, your team's in fourth place in the West. Bye-bye. Stop. You're not impressing me.
Not yet.
So.
Yeah. The Giannis thing's interesting. I mean, because I think he was trying to say, like, I think he was trying to pump up his guys and just didn't go at it right. And, you know, they're retiring his number around the league. It's not like the Heat decided we're going to retire Bill Russell's number. Like, nobody can wear 6 anymore. So I don't know why he's coming with that. And then that's just not the person you say bleep them. Like, this is, to me, it's not. Let's just come on, man. Like, you know, and Udonis is, you know, he understands social justice. He's fought for people in Florida. He's not he's an intelligent man. But that whole just kind of like Celtics, you letting it go too far, right? Mm-hmm. Just letting it go too far. The man passed away a couple of years ago. He did everything that you'd want for an athlete to do.
And more than MJ on the floor. So, like, if you're going to bring that.
Like I said before, you ain't say nothing when they retired 23. Or they got Dan Marino's jersey hanging in. I guess it's Miami, so you don't have a problem with it. But to me, like, come on, Udonis. And I know these podcasts, everybody wants to go off and make headlines and say something silly and stupid and make, you know, but it's just to the point of like it's just disrespectful, unfortunately. And now, like, I saw like Bam Adebayo at shoot around or whatever today, or at practice, had to talk about it, was asked about it. It was like,
that's a distraction.
I respect him. I respect Bill Russell, you know, it was not about it. But, you know, come on now. The KD thing in Phoenix is interesting. You know, like, they're not playing well. I think I was not trusting of, let's just throw Bradley Beal in there and it's just, they're going to be a machine. Like, no, they're not. Beal has played in 6 games this year. Bradley's just one of those, I think people, it kind of sneaks up on you. For, you know, like, Beal didn't have a reputation of always being hurt until he was always hurt. And so the last few years, he's missed considerable time. Then he gets to Phoenix. Oh, it's back. Then he sprains an ankle. Or it's just sort of like, okay, how much is his body starting to betray him? I mean, he's 30, you know, and not 30 for LeBron is different from 30 for Bradley Beal, right? Not 30 is a very interesting age for an NBA player, especially when you come out when you're 19 and you put in 11 years in the league. And some bodies, they can play 20 years in the league. Other bodies at about 11, their body starts saying, "Hey man, I ain't got much left. I can give you 60 games in a year. You know, I can get you through the playoffs here and there." But even KD's 35, still playing. He even played the most games out of all 3. Even Devin Booker. And KD 35 with coming off a torn Achilles a couple years ago. So it just shows you. So I'm just not impressed with the Suns. You know, Frank Vogel was an interesting choice as a coach, you know, but it's like, okay, so let's see what they got. But the West is tough. With Minnesota now emerging, they're not going nowhere. The Denver Nuggets, and we talked about this. Sherrod talked about the Grizzlies. I'm not saying the Grizzlies going to contend, but now they're like 4.5 games out of the play-in. Like, it's not inconceivable for them to make the playoffs. It's not. And they're like, okay, we got, like, the Grizzlies are starting to keep receipts. Like, all them teams have pounded them without Ja, without Marcus Smart. The Grizzlies, you know, with Ja in that locker room and Marcus, they got a list of teams. Okay, New Orleans, we going to, you know, exactly. They got a list of teams. They beat the Pelicans twice in a week. They're like, okay, what other team that clowned us and was laughing at us and beat us on our home floor? Who's next?
Got you coming up. We got you coming up. We got you.
the Grizzlies keeping receipts because I think they feel like, listen, if we can get to 5, I think they're 10-19 now. Or I could look if they could get to 500, or by the end of the season, yeah, they're 10-19, 4.5 games out the play-in. Like this is not, and they're 2-11 at home. They're not going to be 2-11. They're not going to have a 20% win percentage or whatever at home for the rest of the year. They're going to get better at home. Mm-hmm. And they're 8-8 on the road, incredibly. So they're already a good road team. They start winning more at home. The Grizzlies are going to sneak into that play-in and be a team that nobody wants to play. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship. I think they've cost themselves that. I think they'll probably lose in the first round. But they're going to take somebody. They're going to take somebody out. They're going to make it interesting in that first round, especially with Marcus now healthy. You hope he stays healthy. Ja's back, brimming with energy. So I think it's going to be interesting to look at the Grizzlies and see what they do over the next few months. And once good health comes in, they've won 4 in a row now since Ja's come back. So don't count them out in terms of making the play. I think people are like, oh, they're headed to the lottery. Just play it out because they're terrible. Well, they ain't terrible no more.
Facts.
All right. Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of the Big 3 NBA podcast. You guys said last week you were going to tell us your favorite Christmas song, though. Let's quickly share what that is before we wrap.
Who, Gary?
Yeah.
Which?
I think one of you for that.
Oh, I have 2. What? I have 3.
Oh.
Give Love on Christmas Day.
No, not one of them.
Oh, damn.
This Christmas, Donny Hathaway. Santa Claus is coming to town, The Whispers. And Everything for Christmas and Temptations. Those are my 3 top. You can fight me on it. You can leave your comments. Listen to those 3 songs. And my favorite. And then also by The Whispers, a song called Happy Holidays.
Okay.
Top 4. I could add a 5th, but those are my must listen to during this time of year.
We should have just had Gary starting 5 for Christmas songs. That's what we should have had.
But actually,
figure he would pick 1, but he picked like 4.
Kwani, what are yours, please?
Mine are mostly
Little Soulja Boy make a Christmas song.
Exactly.
Soulja Boy make a Christmas.
A Chris Brown Christmas.
A Chris Brown. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I do like the Chris Brown version of This Christmas.
No, it's not bad. I'm being funny.
It's cute. It's cute.
He could do worse.
Yeah, of course. Silent Night is like a classic. I don't have a specific artist for it. I don't even think about my answers, to be honest. I like Christmas though. Just like Christmas song. Like I like Mary Did You Know, which is like a churchy song, but it's really nice. Especially when you get that little 3-part harmony going. What about you, Sherrod?
Give Love on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And there's multiple artists who've done that. I'm partial to Temptations. That's my number 1. Number 2, probably Boys to Men, Let It Snow. I love that song.
Oh, that is a good one.
It's just a great.
And the harmony in that too.
Yeah, a great non-secular this time of year song. Nobody can be mad about that song. Yeah. You just no matter. So those are probably my big 2. There's like and like Gary pointed, I mean, there's at least like I can think of 3 or 4 others that would make the list. But we talking about your favorites, not the ones that are in your rotation. Your favorites. Don't give me your Drew Holiday, your Derek White, your Sam Hauser version. I want the Tatum and Browns. All right, that's it. Yeah, your top show. So that's why for me, Give Love on Christmas Day by the Temptations and Let It Snow by Boyz II Men. Those are my 2. My Tatum and my Brown.
Well, we hope you all had a great Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, anything you celebrate during this month.
Oh, Kwanzaa just getting started, Kwani.
That's true. My
first
holiday.
week. Come on now.
I'm still learning about my own holiday.
Gary, we can't teach them nothing, man. Can't teach them nothing. Can't take them nowhere. My goodness.
But before we close out, I do want to give a shout out to Indeed.com, HelloFresh, and FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network, where new customers get $150 in bonus bets with their any winning $5 money line bet. It's a new year, time to save some money, time to make some money. So you know what to do. Go to download those apps, of course, but also make sure you're downloading our episodes of the Big 3 NBA podcast on whatever your favorite podcasting apps. And make sure you share with a friend as well as we get into the new year. new routines, and you have more time to listen to us every week talking about your favorite team, the Boston Celtics. Until next week, though, which will be next year. This is the big...
She said it like Grinch. Next year.
You know, I love a corny joke.
Corny, what you look? You got something up in 24? Like, you can't wait for 24. Wow. Okay.
It's next year. I like saying next year.
Next year.
You're allowed to say next year now. It's only in a few days. But thank you all for listening.
The corniness has got to stop. Like last
It's not stopping.
No, keep it going, Con. Keep it going.
Such and such got waved. They waved back. This time it's next week, which is next year. So
yeah, if you don't like my corny puns, then you probably shouldn't listen to us next year because they will continue to exist.
Keep it going, Corny. Keep it going. We got you.
I think that's what the people want. All right.
Get what the people want. Exactly.
People want. Okay, if they want it, they got it.
Yes. Well, we appreciate y'all all so much. And again, tune in next week. We'll be back here.